The modern Georgia Southern football program has only been around for a little over 40 years. Yet in that time, they turned themselves into an FCS blueblood before deciding to move up to the FBS a decade ago. It is a storied program that turned things that could have been embarrassing into traditions. This has also been a video that has been consistently requested for over the past year or so. This is the story of Georgia Southern football, from FCS Powerhouse to possible Group of 5 playoff contender. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what college football program you want me to look into next. I'm also raising money for a charity run I'm participating in at the end of September. If you're interested in donating, the link is in the description below. I would greatly appreciate it. Georgia Southern football actually began in 1909, though it was not officially a school squad, as they would go by the names of the culture, playing against different high school teams and clubs. One former opponent was quoted saying, "We got beat 18-3 by 1st District A&M. The boys who played for the culture were from farms and were used to working tough. They gave us a beating that I never forgot." In 1916, they would play their first game on Thanksgiving, and in 1924, football would become an official sport for Georgia Southern, which at the time was known as the Georgia Normal School. In 1927, the school changed the football team's nickname to the Blue Tide, and they found success with an undefeated season in 1924 and a 5-3-1 season in 1926. In 1927, they would see the Blue Tide go 6-1-1, which was one of the most successful seasons of the early years, with the only loss that season coming to Richmond Academy. Defense recorded 4 shutouts and only allowed 40 points all season long. The squad also had one of the best players in school history with fullback Demolis Rushing, with Rushing serving as a team captain and was said to be the athletic hero around campus. Some opponents and fans claimed he was the best football player they had ever seen. 1929 saw the arrival of Byron Lambert Crook Smith, who led it 13 times across 3 sports at Mercer in the early 20s. Smith would coach Georgia Southern for 13 years, making him the longest tenured head coach in school history to this day. 1929 also saw the school change their name once again, this time to the South Georgia Teachers College. They also brought in President Dr. Marvin S. Pittman, who began to threaten football in all sports at the school. Pittman didn't think football should be played at a teachers' college, and small colleges claiming sports brought no educational purpose and were actually ruining American institutions of higher learning. Pittman wrote several national publications on this opposition to the game, with differing feedback depending on the region of the country. A vast majority of students disagreed with this pushback, claiming the team uplifted the profile and spirit of the school. This meant Coach Smith had no real backing from his school for his program, but was still able to put together a 49-69-9 record, where they won 2 unofficial conference titles, created new traditions, and played teams like Miami out of state and the University of Havana out of the country. The Blue Tide played their last season in 1941, going 2-8, and when World War II broke out, the school suspended all sports and the football program would not return for the next 41 years. It was not until the late 70s when the conversation to bring football back would begin. While Pittman in the 20s and 30s felt like sports were the bad for the university, 4 decades later, President Dal Lick felt like football was good for the school and decided to revive the football program at Georgia Southern College. The faculty senate was actually against this decision and rejected the proposal via voting. Lick was not done fighting though, as he would hire Irk Russell, the University of Georgia's defensive coordinator at the time. Russell was a super popular and charismatic person who had coached under Vince Dooley at Georgia for 17 years. Russell almost did not become available though, as Vince Dooley considered leaving Georgia for the Auburn job after the 1980 season. According to Russell's book, if Vince did leave, there was a very strong chance Russell would have been the next head coach at Georgia following a national championship winning season. Instead, Dooley decided to stay, and in 1981, Russell shocked everyone when he chose to become the head coach at Georgia Southern. Irk told Georgia Southern he'd take the job of starting the program if they could pay him $1 more than he made at Georgia. Russell was intrigued by the Georgia Southern job the minute talks began of bringing back the program. Russell hire was a big deal, and had he not taken the job, the football team may have never returned. Athletic director Bucky Wagner also had Ray Goff and Red Parker as the school's other 2 finalists. Louis Grizzard, an American writer, spoke on the hiring saying, "When they landed Irk Russell, they got themselves a franchise." Russell would coach a team full of walk-ons known as the FCS Eagles in 1981, which was a forgotten season and did not count in any of the record books. Ben Griffith was in charge of the offense and Mike Healy was in charge of the defense. They had 140 people try out for the team, ranging from 132 pounds to 250 pounds. The first blue-white game was played on October 31st, 1981, an hour and a half away in Dublin at Shamrock Stadium in front of 2,006 people at Dublin High School. Monday, November 16th, 1981, would be the first game as they loaded up in their famous yellow school buses to take on Florida State's junior varsity squad. FCS Eagles would be up 20-17 towards the end of the fourth quarter, but would lose in the end. The Eagles, led by William Carwell, 75 rushing yards, rushed for 270 yards on the ground. The Florida State defense was only allowing 79.1 yards per game until that point. It was a promising start. It would take on Fort Benning Doughboys, an Army club team led by Lehman Hall, and the Jacksonville Magnum Force, a police club team. They finished the year 2-1 and impressed throughout, although they were a team of walk-ons. At the time, Georgia Southern was on a shoestring budget, so they used the same pants for practice and games. To save money, Russell bought blue helmets with nothing on them and had his players put on an athletic tape stripe down the middle of the blue helmet. They had no logos or anything else, just blue helmets with a plain white stripe. The taping of the helmet would become a tradition for the school. With no team-building rituals, Russell renamed a drainage ditch between the two practice fields the Beautiful Eagle Creek, bottling its magic water in a milk jug to pour on opponents' fields for luck. For home games, the team rode in yellow buses on loan from the county. Which should have been embarrassing for a Division I football program, Russell was able to turn into traditions and make them special. They would play two more club seasons in 1982 and 1983, going 7-3-1 and 6-5, before becoming an official member of the Division I AA as an independent. 1983 saw the arrival of Paul Johnson as the school's defensive line coach, but in 1985 he would be promoted to the offensive coordinator position, introducing the triple option offense, an offense that would help the Eagles dominate Division I AA football. That year they would make it to the Division I AA playoffs for the first time in school history, entering with a 9-2 record. They would beat Jackson State in the first round 27-0, before upsetting the number 1 seed in Middle Tennessee State, 28-26 on the road. They then traveled to Cedar Falls, Iowa to take on Northern Iowa, where they beat them 40-33 to make it to the Division I AA national title game. That year the game took place in Tacoma, Washington, and they managed to upset the number 2 seed in Furman 44-42 to win their first national title in school history, 4 years after starting the football program as the FCS Eagles. The following year, they entered the playoffs as a 4 seed and once again went on a run, upsetting top seed Nevada on the road 48-38 in Reno and beat number 2 seed Arkansas State in the national title game 48-21, marking back-to-back national titles. Following the season, Johnson left to become the offense coordinator at Hawaii, but the Eagles kept winning. In 1987, they went 9-4, losing in the quarterfinals to top seed App State. The following year, they went 12-3, losing the national title game to Furman, but used that to fuel a historic season in 1989. The Eagles would go 15-0, winning their third national title and becoming the first team in the 20th century to go 15-0 and win a national title at home. Following the season, Russell would retire, finishing with an 83-22-1 record and never having a losing season. Offense coordinator Tim Stowers was hired to replace Russell and led them to their 4th national title in 6 years, beating Nevada. In 1991 and 1992, they would go 7-4 and missed the Division I AA playoffs both seasons. In 1993, Georgia Southern joined the Southern Conference and won the conference their first season, going 10-3 and making to the Division I AA quarterfinals. Stowers would finish his Eagles career with a 51-23 record, winning a national title and making the quarterfinals twice. After a 9-4 season and a quarterfinals appearance, Stowers was fired by then new athletic director Sam Baker for not living up to the same expectations set by Russell. Frank Elwood would serve as the interim head coach for the 1996 season, led them to their first losing season in modern football history, going 4-7. 1997 saw the return of Paul Johnson as head coach, along with legendary running back Adrian N. Peterson. The Eagles found instant success. They went 10-3 in 97, making it to the quarterfinals, and in 1998 they entered the national title game with a 14-0 record, but fell to UMass in the title game. They would rebound, making it back to the national title game in 1999, beating Youngstown State to win their 5th national title in 15 years. Heading into the 2000 season, Peterson returned as well as most of the 99 roster, and they looked primed to go on another national title run. They got tested early, traveling up to Athens to take on Georgia and losing 29-7. Georgia coach Jim Donan said after the game, "Whoever has to play this team next, I feel bad for them." They'd proceed to go on an 8-game win streak, winning by an average of 23 points per game, and including beating App State 34-28 at home. They would get brought back down to earth, getting blown out by Furman 45-10 on the road, a game Peterson missed due to an injury, but finished the season with a 32-9 win over Elon. They ended the playoffs as the 3 seed and dominated McNeese State and Hofstra in the first 2 rounds, setting up a huge matchup against number 2 Delaware in the semifinals. Some felt Delaware was better than Montana, the 1 seed at the time, but that did not stop Georgia Southern from winning on the road 27-18 and make it to their 3rd straight national title game. Georgia Southern took on number 1 seed Montana in the national title game, a game played in a downpour. The Eagles would take a 20-3 lead at half, but Montana would fight back to take a 23-20 lead in the 4th quarter, but Peterson would take it 57 yards to the house to give the Eagles the lead, and they would go on to win 27-25. The 2nd straight national title and their 6th in school history. Johnson and Georgia Southern would almost three-peat in 2001, but would lose 24-17 to Furman in the semifinals. Johnson would leave Georgia Southern for Navy following the season, and the golden era of Georgia Southern football would come to an end as the 2000 team would be their last national title winning team. Johnson finished with a 62-10 record and 5 conference titles in 5 years. The finalists for Johnson's replacements were Mike Seawalk and Rusty Russell, Irk's son. In 2004, according to the Savannah Morning News, Seawalk fired Russell as the defensive coordinator and asserted to the media that he had met with Irk Russell before he made the decision on firing his son. Irk Russell said the meeting never took place. He cut ties with Georgia Southern through a letter and considered moving from Statesboro back to Athens. When Russell had retired, he wanted to serve as an advisor for the program, but the school basically pushed him back to the side, although he played a role in hiring Stowers and Johnson. Seawalk would make it to the Division I AA semifinals with the 11-3 record in 2002, but a first-round exit in 2004 and 2005, as well as the fallout with Russell led to his firing. He won 2 conference titles and finished with a 35-14 record. Ryan Van Gordon was hired to replace Seawalk and tried to get Russell more involved with the team. Tyson Summers, the safeties coach at the time, spoke on the situation one day involving Russell, saying, "He came to practice at camp. He sat there in a lawn chair smoking a cigar. Coach Van Gorder said, 'I want everybody to go over there and let's get up on Coach Russell.' Everybody all fired up, and Coach Russell's like, 'What are y'all doing?' 2 days before the season opener, Van Gorder convinced Russell to give one last speech to the team. The Eagles gathered in a parish building off Fair Road, and what started as a speech turned into a lecture about life, football, and making the most of what you have. The next day, Irk Russell passed away. Summers explained, "I remember being there early. Usually for coaches, Friday mornings are not the early days. They take their kids to school and get in around 9 or 9:30. Everyone said he was over at the country store. It was like it was over. It was just like the whole town was deflated, like the air had gone out." The next day, the Eagles lost 17-13 to underwhelming Central Connecticut State, and the misfortune snowballed from there. It would be a rough year for Georgia Southern as they would go 3-8, their worst record at the FCS in school history. Van Gorder scrapped Georgia Southern's famed triple option offense and did away with certain traditions, such as the team arriving at home games on the yellow buses as well. He resigned following the season, and Valdosta State head coach and 2004 Division II national champion winning head coach Chris Hatcher would be named the next head coach. A 7-4 record, followed by a 6-5 and 5-6 record in 2008 and 2009, led to an 18-15 record and his firing. Jeff Monken, who had coached under Johnson at Georgia Southern and Navy, was named the team's next head coach for the 2010 season. Monken brought back the famed triple option offense, and the team would finish the regular season 7-4. They would go on a run in the playoffs, though, making it to the semifinals where they lost to Delaware. In 2011, the Eagles finished the year 11-3 and made it back to the semifinals once again, this time losing to North Dakota State in Fargo. 2012 saw them finish the year 10-4, and they made it to their 3rd appearance in the semifinals of the playoffs, once again losing to North Dakota State in Fargo, 23-20. Monken had led them back to the playoffs for the first time since 2005, won their first outright conference title since 2002, and had them ranked as the number 1 team in the nation for the first time since 2001 throughout his tenure. In 2012, it was announced that Georgia Southern was going to be moving up to the FBS level. AD Sam Baker, who was against the move up to the FBS level, resigned that summer. It was University president Brooks Keel who wanted to make the move up. In March of 2013, it was announced that they would be joining the Sun Belt Conference, and the Eagles would finish the 2013 season 7-4 and upset the University of Florida on the road 26-20, where they would not attempt a single pass all game. It was their season finale, making it their last game as an FCS team, and Monken's last game as head coach there, as he would take the Army head coaching job the following season. It was the Eagles' first win over a Power 5 FBS team, and the Gators' first loss in an FCS program. Georgia Southern would name Willie Fritz as their next head coach, who was at Sam Houston State previously. The Eagles would finish their first year in the Sun Belt going 9-3 and won the conference title with an 8-0 conference record. The Eagles became only the third team ever to win a conference title in its first FBS season, after Nevada in 1992 as a member of the Big West Conference and Marshall in 1997 as a member of the MAC. They were also the first team ever to go unbeaten in conference play in their first FBS season. They would file a waiver to play in a bowl game, but it got rejected. The following year, they would go 8-4 and received a bid to play in their first bowl game in school history. They would win said game 58-27 to finish off a historic season. Following the regular season, Fritz would leave to take the Tulane job, finishing with a 17-7 record in 2 seasons. Tyson Summers would return to Statesboro and would go 5-7 his first season, and after an 0-6 start in 2017 was fired. They finished the 2017 season 2-10, making it the worst season in school history. Chad Lunsford would serve as the interim head coach following Summers' firing, and he would be named the head coach full-time later that year. When Lunsford took over, the program was coming off their first back-to-back losing seasons in school history. It would quickly turn things around, leading them to a 10-3 record and a win in the Camellia Bowl. The following year, they would go 7-6 and lose in the Cure Bowl. They rebounded with an 8-5 record in 2020 and won the New Orleans Bowl, but after a 1-3 start in 2021, Lunsford was fired and the team finished the year 3-9, making it their second worst season in school history. In November of 2021, former USC coach Clay Helton was named Georgia Southern's next head coach, a big-name splash that was unexpected at the time. Early in his tenure, Helton led Georgia Southern to a 45-42 upset win over Nebraska, their second win over a Power 5 team in school history. Helton would lead them to back-to-back bowl games, which they would lose, making it their first time in school history. Georgia has had 3 straight losing seasons. Into the 2024 season, though, Helton is in his third year of the transition from the option offense to a more pass-centric offense. He feels like he has the best team yet, with a lot of veterans returning, and Phil Steele projects them to finish tied for second in the stacked Sun Belt Conference. Georgia Southern has a history of winning, is a team I may consider rebuilding. In less than 20 years, they won 6 national titles, became a powerhouse at the FCS level, doing more with less. Only time will tell if they could become a Group of 5 college football playoff contender under Helton. What do you think? Who wins the Sun Belt Conference this year? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.